thought I'd bring out the greenhouse today. It seemed appropriate to talk about the greenhouse temperatures. We planted in the greenhouse about a week and a half ago, and I showed you sprouts just now, and that's where we're at in the greenhouse. We do have sprouts. The ground temperature in here is plenty warm to sprout cold weather crops. We have the cabbage is just taken off over here. The other cabbage that wasn't doing as well still isn't doing as well, but the new growth on it still looks good, so I'm still not giving up on it. Over here we had beets, and over here we have radishes and turnips, and then there's turnips in here. I haven't seen any sprouts in there yet, but that's planted a little different, I think, than the turnips down there. And actually, just as I say that, I see some next to this cabbage that I think are probably turnips. I'm going to talk a little bit about the greenhouse temperatures, and I'll insert these graphs. I have a graphs on my phone that I'm going to talk about. Greenhouse temps. I stopped recording the temperatures about 2 weeks ago. I think I did like one greenhouse temperature after I got laid off. Since then, I haven't done any greenhouse temperatures. I don't know if I'll get back to it. Really, what I wanted to know was the earliest I could plant, and that I found out, and so I probably won't keep track of the greenhouse temperatures all the way through the year, although I might. I'm missing half of March now. So the first graph I'm going to show you is the soil temps for the greenhouse versus outside. Greenhouse temp is continually warmer than outside. The outside fluctuates really quickly with the outside temp. The greenhouse temperature is not nearly as volatile as the outside soil temp, dependent on the ambient air temperature. The second one I have here is the air temps for the inside and outside the greenhouse. And the inside the greenhouse varies sometimes very heavily on this graph, and that was dependent on the time of day that we took the temperature, because it gets quite warm in here during the day and then it can go back to being quite cold. The last one is humidity. Now, the humidity in the greenhouse, I don't feel like this chart is worth a whole lot, mostly because we were using this little greenhouse that's set up behind me here was where the temperature probe has been some of the time. It hasn't altered the temperature all that much, but it does alter the humidity, which is fine because that's where we want to start seeds. But in a greenhouse, it doesn't give me an accurate reading. It's almost always 99% humidity inside there. That's such a small greenhouse, and it's so tightly sealed. Give you an update on the way the greenhouse held up. The day we saw between 40 and 50 mile an hour gust winds. I thought we were going to lose the greenhouse that day. The plastic was just going to come loose. It did hold up under it. I put a stop block on the inside of the door so that it can't open into the greenhouse, and then I rolled rock up on the outside so that it can't open to the outside of the greenhouse. When the wind was at its peak, it would push so hard on this side of the greenhouse it would cause the door to open out or open in, depending on whether the wind relaxed or hit, and it was causing much more fluctuation because then there was a way for the internal pressure to change, and so it would cause it to push much harder over. Fixing that door, it didn't allow it to fluctuate nearly as heavily. It looked dangerously close to pulling out of the wiggle wire, so after I got the door shut, it was much more secure. This is a sprayer I picked up last year. We've used nothing but water in it. I bought it specifically for the garden. Top water with a mist. We don't have a hose very close to this greenhouse, so I've done this so that we didn't have to water in the greenhouse, although our hose does stretch to this greenhouse, because at the end of the season last year when we were watering potatoes, I was able to do that with the hose. There's also peas in this bed I forgot to mention up next to this trellis. What I showed you going to the front is radishes, and then there's beets back here. I doubt you can see me watering beets. Thanks for coming along today as I watered the greenhouse and talked about the temperatures.